Hello, I'm Serena Strecker, and I'll be speaking to you today about The Hobbit, or There and Back Again. The Hobbit was originally written by J.R.R. Tolkien, entirely separate from his other works involving Middle-earth, as a bedtime story for his children. This is noteworthy because since then it has become a 20th century classic, read at the high school level in schools all around the world, translated into many, many languages, like this one, which is Latin, etc. The Hobbit began as a scribbled note on a blank leaflet of school certificate papers reading, "In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit." Now I could tell you the long and elaborate history of the making of the Hobbit, the evolution of its dust jacket covers, etc. However, that's not really what this is about, and all that information can be readily found in the many prefaces of The Hobbit, including this one, as well as dear old Wikipedia. Suffice it to say, The Hobbit began as a children's story, and in its final form was still considered one, became grander and grander as it was written, because of Tolkien's simultaneous work on the Silmarillion. This is how we get the epic nature of the story, and after the publishers begged for more about hobbits, the reading public got The Lord of the Rings. Yes! You heard me correctly. Now, none of you better ever say that The Hobbit, as a book, is a prequel to The Lord of the Rings. Construction and dust jackets aside, let's talk about the narrative of The Hobbit. The Hobbit is one of my personal favorite books because of its titular species, hobbits, and in particular, the Hobbit, our protagonist. Bilbo Baggins spends literally half of his expected lifespan, hobbits live to 100 as often as not, doing basically nothing, which is attributed to the Baggins side of him. Hobbits, as a people, are really big into genealogy, and the dialectic that we all feel between comfort, safety, and home, and adventure, wonder, and awe, is described on this basis in Hobbit-esque style. The adventurous side of hobbits is illustrated by the Tooks, of which Bilbo is secretly a part, in much the same way that the Tooks are brushed off by the rest of the Hobbit community because of their adventurous tendencies. The Tookish part of Bilbo is similarly pushed aside and ignored in favor of the Baggins side with its traditional Hobbit costumes. The main plot of The Hobbit is about this seemingly ordinary, or perhaps actually totally ordinary, bloke who makes one pretty rash decision and ends up on a wild adventure, coming back home a better person for it. This narrative reflects the Bildungsroman, a type of story in which there's an education or maturation of the protagonist. Bilbo starts out as more of a liability to the group than a help, but after acquiring a magic ring in somewhat sketchy circumstances, he becomes ever more mature and wise, actually becoming the leader of the group after Gandalf leaves. This personal growth sharply contrasts with that of the dwarves, who are merely dead set on getting back their wealth, and when actually faced with that wealth, become utterly blind to the considerations of anyone but themselves. In this context, Bilbo serves as an example and the dwarves as a warning. Ultimately, however, even the dwarves, even with their folly, are not irredeemable, as Thorin's dying words illustrate. If more of us valued food and cheer and song above hoarded gold, it would be a merrier world. Hobbit is full of such aphorisms and one-shot, one-sentence lessons, and while these are important and valuable lessons, I think that the more important and valuable lessons are about the narrative as a whole. Lessons like ones Bilbo learned by going on an adventure, not only learning and understanding more about himself, but learning more about the world as a whole. Information of the sort that the Hobbit community sees as dangerous, just as they outright dismiss everything outside of their borders as being both dangerous and not worth the time or trouble to study or understand. At the risk of making Hobbiton sound like Airstrip 1, hobbits don't like things that challenge their traditional views, and they resist understanding others complexly. Over the course of The Hobbit, Bilbo comes to have an understanding and compassion for others with differing perspectives. Yeah, sure, The Hobbit is full of frankly ridiculous escapades, a cunning and nearly overwhelming dragon, and epic battles. But the really important parts of the overall story are in chapters like Riddles in the Dark and Inside Information.